Hello, this is Mike from Dimensional Walking, and today I want to talk about the wild men of Central Europe, a tapestry of myth and mystery. Okay, so the forests of Central Europe, from the dense woodlands of Germany to the rugged mountains of the Balkans, have long been shrouded in the whispers of creatures that dwell beyond the edges of civilization. These are the wild men, a diverse collection of mythical beings, and I think many of them are real, often depicted as hairy, hulking figures with animalistic traits. While they share similarities with the North American Sasquatch, Bigfoot, these European counterparts boast of unique names, characteristics, and folkloric traditions. Okay, so even though the Bigfoot and Sasquatch, to the kind of the white or the main population or whatever you want to call it, doesn't have really this folklore following like they do in Europe, especially the central place where these wild men are. But I've learned over my years of being around Indian Native American reservations that they do. The Native Americans have a lot of folklore, and many times it's kind of really blended into part of their culture. One of the stories I always tell is I had the opportunity once to have a gentleman work for me in Albuquerque, New Mexico, actually, that was a great grandson of a very famous Native American chief. Okay, and I'm not going to go give names or anything like that, but he told me once after working for me for several years and kind of felt comfortable talking about these type of things with me. He told me that every corner of all the reservations he knew of, and he knew of a lot of them, especially the ones out in the west, they had a little corner, and sometimes it wasn't just little; it was pretty large actually, in which all of these kind of mythical, what many people think are mythical creatures resided, and they protected that area, and the only people that could go in there would be like shaman or medicine men. They were the only people that could enter those areas. Everybody else was kept out. I don't think very few white men were ever allowed to go into these areas, uh, but definitely most of the Native Americans weren't either for the most part. This was a protected area. So anyway, so the Native Americans obviously have this part of their culture. Okay, we don't. I mean, the white people don't have it part of their culture at all. I mean, I think there's many white people that are very interested in Sasquatch and Bigfoot, but it's handled differently in our culture. So, anyways, let's go back to the wild men, okay, of Central Europe. So so there was they're a diverse cast of characters. Okay, we'll call them. And the first one I want to talk about briefly is one called the Wood Whiz. Uh, and it's kind of a common name for the wild men in medieval Europe. And of course, this goes way back. This isn't just anything recent. This goes way back, probably before the Sasquatch, obviously before even white men came to North America. So they were talking about these things going way back. So this wood whiz was typically depicted like the hairy giant with a club and often seen as the guardian of the forest. The wood whiz is hairy, hulking figure it was from a dramatic folklore. It is often depicted as, let's see, get my notes here, almost depicted as wild man of the woods, living in the forests and the caves. The wood whiz is typically seen as a solitary creature, but it's sometimes it said to have a mate and an offspring, basically a family. Okay. Very similar to what we talk about with Sasquatch and Bigfoot. It is often depicted as being hostile to humans, but it is also sometimes said to be helpful to those who treat it with respect, which is, again, I would say quite similar to my personal experiences and other people's experiences with Sasquatch. The whiz is often associated with the winter solstice, and it is said to be particularly active during this time of the year. So I guess being in December now, it would be pretty active in Europe somewhere, right? Okay, the next one is called the Oro. Um, it's a more sinister type figure. The Oro is often depicted as this kind of weird, kind of plant-like humanoid, born from a hangman's seed. Okay, and all my research tells me that's probably sperm. Okay, so pretty bizarre, I guess. These creatures are believed to bring misfortune and death. Okay, so that to a certain extent is quite different than Sasquatch or Bigfoot because I've really never heard that kind of angle from them. Okay, so again, this is from the dramatic German folklore. It is again, it has these having a human-like face and body, but of course these features of flowers and leaves growing around its head. Who knows? It could be kind of a Sasquatch and that just kind of decorates itself with these type of things. It's possible, I guess. I'm always looking for some similarities here. But anyways, who knows? Sasquatch can wear clothes and they can do things like that. So it's very possible. Um, and of course, this is also said to bring bad luck to those who come in contact with it. So it's kind of like you don't want to come in contact with this one, especially if it has these kind of leaves and flowers and stuff maybe in its hair or whatever. So the next one is pretty interesting. It's Krampus. Okay, so Krampus is kind of this holiday creature. He's kind of reference to Christmas season. Um, he's a kind of this goat. We'll call it a horned goat-like demon from the Alps. Okay, folklore. Okay. Krampus is known for punishing naughty children during Christmas season. Okay. So he's kind of the bad Santa. Okay. So again, he's this horned goat like demon, uh, and is said to be a companion of Saint Nicholas. Okay. And is often depicted as punishing naughty children. And said that Krampus is often seen fearsome creature, but is also sometimes seen as a symbol of the wild and untamed forces of nature. Okay, well that's pretty interesting. So, anyways, he's a companion of Saint Nicholas. Okay, so the next one is called the Leshy. Okay, it is a Slavic forest spirit. The Leshy is a shapeshifter who can appear as an animal or a human. Okay, is often seen as a guardian of the forest, again, a guardian of the forest, but also be mischievous and often or even malevolent. Okay, so that's not great. Um, again, it's a Slavic forest spirit, and its main thing is it's a shapeshifter. Okay. Maybe it's sort of like a skinwalker in some way. It doesn't feel like a skinwalker. All I know about skinwalkers, but it just doesn't quite feel that strange, that evil of a side. Um, so, anyways, it's something you may not want to run into. A lot of the forest creatures, have been my experience, are very mischievous, and you have to always have if you're going out there, and you got to be really careful. I found out that if you try to give them something, and if they take it, they're going to try to give you something back, and it always isn't something good. So you got to really be careful because all of a sudden you could you're hiking or something, you could be slipping down a trail or something, and not quite figure out why you were slipping down that trail. like I have had in the past. So the next one, of course, is one that is very much related to Sasquatch, is the Yeti. Now, we're not going to talk about the Yetis that are in uh, the Himalayan mountains. Okay, this would be farther to the west, and this is in the Carpathian Mountains, where there is one known creature known as the Hymo nigru. Okay, I think it's like the black one. Okay, because apparently it's a very dark looking, bulky, hairy creature. Okay, and and again, it's said to be mainly in the mountainous areas, Carpathia Mountains, um, and it's very similar to the Yeti that's in the Himalaya mountains. And it's also depicted as being quite hostile to humans. Um, again, it's a symbol of the wild, untamed forces of nature, and and it's also seen sometimes as a metaphor for the human condition. Um, and the human condition, maybe the more poor parts of the human condition, the poorer countries of the world. He may live, this particular being may live in a very kind of savagey world, um, in the mountains. So I think that's it. And there's been a lot of talk about the Yetis and what they can do and all kinds of legends and things. We go on about that. I think they're very close, or they probably are just another term for Sasquatch, although there seems to be some differences also. So, shared characteristics and commonalities, um, of all these things, basically, we're going to talk about, including the Sasquatch. They are typically described as large, hairy creatures with intense strength. Some accounts depict them as animal-like features such as pointed ears, claws, and fangs. Okay. Um, I'm not sure if that always matches Sasquatch, but probably some claws or some hands that maybe have some long nails on them. I don't think Sasquatch normally has any kind of depiction as having fangs. Inhabitation of remote areas. These creatures are most sighted in remote forested areas such as deep woods, mountains, and swamps. That's very much similar to Sasquatch. Connection to nature. Many of these creatures are seen as embodiments of the wild, represent untamed forces of nature. I talked about that before. Yes, I have to agree. All of these creatures uh, have that type of feel to them. Folklore and mythologies. Their existence is deeply embedded in local folklore with numerous tales and legends surrounding encounters with humans. Yes, that goes for all of them, Sasquatch included. Um, always there's legends and myths and sightings are always constant, and it's still happening in Europe. This is an old thing in Europe. They see these things here out there. There'll be stories in newspapers in Germany and in the Alpine region and in the mountainous regions of the Central Europe or Eastern Europe or Middle Europe, I think they call it too. Modern sightings and interpretations. While primarily figures of folklore, there have been occasional reports of modern sightings, just like I said, resembling these wild men. Their accounts often remain unsubstantiated and met with skepticism. Of course, that's very similar to Sasquatch here. Now, they call them wild men, but the reality is it's women too. I mean, we have, there's females here and there's, children in all these stories. Um, so, we don't want to leave out the women. There's wild women too. Um, So some cryptozoologists and folkloreologists believe that these accounts may be based on real encounters with rare animals, such as wolves or bears. It's possible. Um, if you ever been around a Sasquatch, I have. Uh, you know, it's not a bear and it's not a wolf. Okay, that's the Sasquatch end. Now, some of these other ones that I've been talking about, there may be some feeling of similarity, Um, but it's hard to believe that anybody in their sane mind could, if they saw one of these other creatures, Sasquatch or otherwise, that they would mistakenly think they're wolves or mistakenly think they're a bear. I mean, it's possible the bear may be a little bit depending on, if you saw him from the backside or something, it's possible there is some similarities there. Cultural impact. The wild men have left a lasting impact on the European culture. Okay. They are featured in art, literature, and music throughout history. They consider to be fascin they consider to be continue to fascinate and intrigue, serving a reminder to an enduring power of myth and mysteries that lie hidden within the depths of the European wilderness. Again, these types demonstrate the hairy types come in different shapes, forms, and colors all over the world, very much like humans are, shape, form, and colors. Um, the hairy ones may have human traits, or we may have some of their traits. Who's really to say, right? Anyways, happy trails until we meet again. Bye bye.